So you're like most people, you find at the end of the month, you've got more month than you have money. It's really getting amazing. I've seen statistics out there where there are a large percentage, and I'm talking 50% or more of Americans who don't have $1,000 in a bank account. So if they had to repair something on their automobile, they can't do it. So it just seems like we're on this constant grind, paycheck to paycheck. We have to have two spouses working just to make ends meet. So how do you escape that? What do you do so that you have a little bit more money left at the end of the month? Now, a lot of times it's really just kind of understanding exactly what's going on with your money. But what we'll talk about today is just a few things that you can do to escape this paycheck to paycheck grind. So first thing we'll talk about is knowing where the money goes. The second one is look for small percentage changes. If you can change a percent here or a percent there, next thing you know, you found 5 or 10% of your pay that you weren't getting before. The other thing you have to do is review the fixed expenses. I find so many times that people will kind of focus on their discretionary spending, but they never look at what is considered their fixed expenses to see if they can save money there. And we'll finish up with just some real quick discretionary expense strategies. There's a million of these things you can do, but we'll just hit upon just a few because I try to keep these webinars short. So again, the first thing, you have to know where the money is going. If you don't know where the money is going, you're never going to be able to make a change and save more money. So there are a lot of opportunities out there to figure out exactly where your money's going. You could create an Excel document to do it, but what I like is some of the free tools that are out there that you can use that'll really track your spending. One of them that I like quite a bit is owned by Intuit. It's called Mint. You just go to mint.com. Same with Personal Capital. It's another site. Both of these two sites, what they do is you go and you give a limited power of attorney to these sites to do what they call screen scraping technology. So you are giving your username and password to your banks, your credit cards, your investment accounts. And before you freak out on that, all they do, they have no ability to go in and make any transactions or change any information. All they do is a screen scrape. So they just pull the transactions over into their platform. So you can see exactly what's going on with your money. The beautiful thing is both of these things will then categorize the expenses. So if you went to Arby's, it's going to know that that's fast food or dining out. So I've been using Mint for a long time, and all I do is I go in once a month and look at the categories of where my spending is. Sometimes things get miscategorized. Sometimes if I write a check, it doesn't know what that check was for. It can't tell that. So I just put in there what the check was for. And then I have a complete understanding of my spending. And then once a year, I'll print this thing out and show my wife. And the first time I did it, it just floored her at the amount of money that we actually spent. So knowing where your money's going is the first step to making an improvement. Another thing I have up here is called envelopes. This is a software. It kind of operates on the old envelope system where people would have 7 or 8 envelopes, one for rent, one for utilities, one for dining out. They would literally put cash in those envelopes. So envelopes kind of runs the same way, same concept, except it's virtual on your computer and not an actual envelope up in the kitchen cabinet. Also, if you do have an interest, I have, through my planning software, the ability to give you the account aggregation opportunity. So you can set this up. And then if you are a client or if you ever want to work with me, I can then import that right into the planning software so we can run up to the minute planning scenarios for you with absolutely current data. The software that I use has a Yodlee integration. That's what Personal Capital has. Mint uses Intuit's aggregation. I find Yodlee is a much better aggregation tool than Intuit, but they're both good. And if you have an interest, you let me know. So the first step, know where your money's going. Once you know where the money's going, then you can start to see what you can do to reduce your spending. Because when you really start to look at it, there are going to be things that jump out at you. Could be dining out, could be coffees at Starbucks, It could be utilities. Something's going to jump out at you as, whoa, we spend that much on this. That's when you can start to really narrow down and make some changes. Now, the other thing that you have to do first is the money you do have, you want to try to optimize that. Now, in this low interest rate world, it's very difficult to do. But remember, we're just looking for small percentages. If we can find a few different areas of your life where we save 1%, next thing you know, we've found 5 or 10%. And that can have an enormous impact on your life going down the road. So a lot of times what I'll find is a lot of people have their checking accounts and savings accounts at a big bank earning 0.01% annually. Well, you gotta break that. So there are a lot of internet money markets out there. I use Ally and Everbank myself. These things pay between 0.7 to 1% annually. Now I know it's pretty pathetic when you have to think of 1% as being a good return, but for money that's just sitting there, emergency funds, things like that, that extra 1% is going to add to your bottom line. And like I mentioned, we're looking for small singles here. We're not looking for big home runs. You add enough singles together, you win the game. So I would look at these things. What they do is they integrate right with your main checking. So if you're at one of the big banks and you have your checking account there, and that's where all your bills are paid out of, you can move money back and forth virtually to Everbank or Ally or Discover. Very simply, you just log in and move it over. The reason these things can offer a little bit higher rates is they don't give you checks. They don't have branches. It's basically plugged into your checking account and you just move the money back and forth as you need it. Another thing I find that people are missing out on is utilizing their credit and cash flow a little bit better. So I put everything on my credit card each month, as much as I can, but I pay it off at the end of the month. You definitely want to be paying off your credit cards. The interest rates on those are just atrocious. I don't even care what my interest rate is on my card because I'm paying it off at the end of the month. So I put everything on my card, and then I focus on getting as much cash back as I possibly can from those credit cards. So, usually what I recommend is avoid the points for travel and look to get cash. Travel's fine, but you never know when you're going to travel. The points could sit there for a long time, whereas with most of these cash back things, you get that cash pretty quickly. It could be within the next billing statement. So again, you're looking at optimizing your cash flow. Getting the cash now is much better than getting points down the road for travel that you might not do for a year. For me, I've got a Fidelity Visa, so that's going to be 2% on all my purchases. So everything I do, I can get 2% cash back. But then I also have kind of a concentration card is what I call it. A good one is an American Express Blue Cash Preferred. That gives you 6% on your grocery bill, 3% on your gas, and then 1% on everything else. So what I do, obviously gas and groceries are going to go on the Amex Blue Cash Preferred, and then everything else goes on my Fidelity Visa. And again, with the Visa, Fidelity Visa, I try to put my utility bills, anything I can get on there, I get on there. That's 2%. So think about that right off the top. Boom, 2% of your spending right back in your pocket. Pretty good. And then with the Amex, I can get 6% groceries, 3% gas. Now there is a fee between $75 to $95 annual fee, but if you spend, I think it's if you spend a $1,500 a year on groceries at 6%, you're going to more than make up for that fee. The other big thing that you can do a lot of times you might find that you're giving gifts quite frequently. And usually what is it now? Gift cards. Nobody buys gifts anymore. They buy gift cards. So you go to the grocery store and you buy your gift cards there and you get 6% off of those things. So it really can make a lot of sense with these kind of cards. Now, I'm not saying that these are the best cards in the world. I'm just saying this is kind of what I do. You can certainly research yourself, but what you do want to look for is cards that pay for cash and then cards that really give you a nice little bonus. So another mistake I find often is people ignore the fixed expenses. When they're trying to find money in their budget, they're always looking at their discretionary spending. Hey, cut out the lattes, make my own coffee. Hey, that stuff helps. Don't get me wrong. But I think people, to their own neglect, fail to look at the fixed expenses that are out there. Well, first one right now, mortgages, right? Mortgage rates are 3.5% for 30 years. So if you have a mortgage and you're at, well above 4%, you need to be refinancing. That could save you maybe $1,000 annually. I mean, think about that right there. One little move, and every single year until you pay that mortgage off, you got $1,000 in your pocket. Not too bad. The other thing, insurances. I find by reviewing your insurances, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but by reviewing that, you might be able to save $500 to $2,000 annually. So these are costs that happen each and every year. If you can find policies that are cheaper right now and you keep it for 10 years, you might put, $1,500 a year in your pocket. That's 15 grand over the next decade. Just think about that. Utilities, there's ways you can save. I don't really want to get into all the little things like putting a blanket around your hot water heater, closing your shades when it's sunny outside, opening during the winter when it's sunny outside. A lot of little things like that you can do. That you can find that stuff online, but those things do add up. Turn out the lights at night if you're not in the room, that kind of stuff. But there's other things too. Some states here in Maryland where I live, you can pick your supplier. So sometimes you can save money just on the energy supplier. Maybe $120, $150 a year. Doesn't seem like much, hey, but it adds up. One area I find people overspend all the time is cable bills. Oh man, they got Showtime, they got HBO, they got all the channels. I mean, who needs 600 friggin' channels? Honestly, do you really need that much? So really, let's start to look to downscale this thing to what you're really watching. Let's cut things out. Maybe you even get rid of cable altogether. I recently got rid of cable. Now, my kids aren't happy. We lost a lot of the Disney Channel stuff, but I'm saving like $70 a year just by cutting out the cable. We have an antenna that gets the basics, NBC, ABC, that stuff. And then, we have Amazon Prime and Hulu, so we can basically get the shows we want to see anyway. But, we're saving $700 a year when it's all chipped in and factored out. Home phones, right? So people still have their phone lines. So look for a voice over the internet protocol. So you've probably got Wi-Fi in your house. Well, hey, why not just go to a VoIP system? You could do Vonage. I use something called UMA. You pay like $50 for your equipment up front, and then after that, all you pay for is your taxes, the FTC taxes each month. So it's like $3 a month. So I'm saving like $250 a year just on home phone. Cell phones are another big area. I just find people have unlimited plans. They have high data, and they're just not using it. So, as long as you don't have any big penalty to switch, you might want to look at downscaling a little bit, get a plan that's a little bit more custom to how you actually use it. You might save anywhere from $20 to $50 a month. So again, think about that. Think if you could add $500, boom, right off the top without affecting your life at all. Some other little things that you could look at is taxes. Right, tax planning is essential. Most people, their tax experiences, they get them done in February, March, or April, put it away, and they don't think about it again until February, March, or April. Well, you know what? If you do a little strategic planning sometime, preferably right around now, July, August, September, you can make some changes. You can find ways to sort of optimize your taxes. Again, every dollar you earn, if you're giving up, let's say 25% the federal, then maybe you got state income taxes of anywhere from 3 to 6%. You could save 30 cents for every dollar you can save on taxes. So it's huge. It can be a huge saver. It can really help you with your retirement savings or college savings or things along those lines. So take a look at your taxes. Try to find some ways to optimize them just a little bit. Shopping, this is getting into discretionary, but there's little things that you can do that people don't do. Always use customer rewards. And I have people tell me all the time, I just get sick of having 100 different cards at all these grocery stores and restaurants and retail outlets. Fine, I understand it. I hate that too. But there's a really cool free app called Keyring. So you can get for your phone. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to scan the card. So then when you go around to all these stores and they say, hey, do you have our card? You just pull up your phone, open Keyring, they scan it right there. So it takes care of that issue, but you've got the customer reward. Sometimes you find these customer rewards can save you, anywhere from 3 to 5%. So again, looking for that 1% here, 1% there, it adds up. Another big thing when you're shopping, stick to the list. I can't say that loudly enough. Stick to the list. Grocery shopping or going to the mall, if you don't stick to a list, if you don't have an objective, you are going to spend too much money. You're going to overspend. It always happens. I do it too. I'm walking down an aisle. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This looks good. I'm gonna grab the Cheetos. No, if I just focus on the list, I get in, I get out, I got what I needed, and I save money. Generic. Buy generic whenever you can. Usually, most of the cornflakes are made by the same company. They're just branded differently. That's all. Buy generic. It really does help you out. Another really cool thing, I really just discovered this, Coupon Lady. If you Google Coupon Lady, Crazy Coupon Lady is actually what it is. She sends like a email a couple times a week, and she does an amazing job of finding deals all over the place. I don't use all of them, but sometimes I'll look at them, and if it's something I might be thinking about buying, I've just saved some money I wasn't going to save otherwise. So insurances, I mentioned insurances a little bit. The big thing, every couple of years, you want to be looking at your home and auto. I have clients come in who have been with State Farm or Allstate for 20 years. They've never even looked at it. They've never even reviewed it with their own insurance agent at those places. So when I take it to an independent agent, I find that these people usually save at least $500, sometimes up to $2,000 annually. So, and I do highly recommend an independent agent, somebody at State Farm, somebody at Nationwide, somebody at Allstate. They're a captive agent. They can only sell the policies that their company offers. They can't go out and find others. And the thing is, all insurance companies have sort of a sweet spot. They have discounts for certain people. Some insurance companies might like to have 50-year-old business owners, or people who are 50 or older. Some companies are very good if you're in your early 30s and you're raising a family. So the independent agent can go out and kind of find which insurance company is going to be best for your situation. And as I said, you might be able to save $5,000 to $2,000 a year every year. Think about that. And even after you've worked with that independent agent, make sure you sit down with him or her every couple of years to make sure that what you're doing right now is the best for you. Another thing, so many people have $250 deductibles. Look, if you don't have money in your bank, I can understand doing that. But if you do have money in your bank, bump that thing up to at least $500. But I'd like to see $1,000 deductibles. Right? A car accident and an auto or a home accident, they're very rare, so $1,000 isn't going to hurt you. But the savings you can get on an annual basis over the next 10, 15, 20 years, it really makes up for it. Some other things to look at. Take a look at your life insurance. A lot of people are stuck in some cruddy whole or permanent life policies when you could probably get a term policy and save yourself a lot of money. The other thing is, if you do have a term, it's been getting cheaper over the past few years. So take a look. Maybe you can get just as much term as you had before and save some money. Or if you spend the same amount, you might be able to extend your term either in the amount that you receive or the years that the term goes. Another big thing is health insurance. You don't have a whole, if you go through work, there's a couple things you can do. But if you don't go through work, you think you're stuck to the Obamacare policies. Well, maybe you are, maybe you're not. There are some policies, I use some through a company called United. It's not an official Obamacare policy, but I'm saving 50% over what I was paying before. Now I might be subject to the penalty, but I find even with that, I'm still going to be saving money over the longer term. So look for some alternatives. If you're on Medicare, each year open season, take a look. Maybe you might be better off in a different prescription plan. Maybe you can save some money that way. It's worth a little bit of time because sometimes you might have $200, $300, $400 of savings with that. If you do get your health insurance through work, take a look at your policy. A lot of times I find people have the best policy, meaning the lowest copays, lowest deductibles, but they're a relatively healthy family. So you're really overpaying for the health insurance. You might be able to get a higher deductible policy and couple that with an HSA plan, savings plan. So over the longer term, you're going to cut your premiums a little bit, so you'll save money there, but then you can also fund this HSA plan. And if you remain healthy, these things grow over time. So now you're building up a savings plan right off the top. So maybe the plan you have now, you're not going to save any money when you go to a higher deductible plan because of the HSA plan. But if you don't use up all that HSA, now you've got savings that roll forward each and every year. And the HSA is the only truly tax-free vehicle out there. You get a tax break when you put the money in, and when you pull the money out, if you use it for medical, no taxes. So, what you can do is end up having an asset, which is savings, just by switching your corporate plan. Autos. This is another area people overspend. First off, drive a car till it dies. I know you want a new car. Everybody likes having a new car. I'm sitting here driving a 2004 Kia minivan with dents. The paint's fading, but the transmission works. The engine's solid. Air conditioning's good. The heater works. So it gets me where I want to go. It looks ugly, but it runs fine. And every month I can delay buying a new car. That's another month I don't have to outlay cash, either a lump sum or $300, $400, $500 a month. Think about The Millionaire Next Door. It was a great book that came out back in the 90s. And what they found is most millionaires don't drive Mercedes, Lexus, BMWs. They're driving the Buicks, the Fords, the Kias. You want to buy cheap cars. Don't get your self-esteem from the car you drive. That's a dumb financial decision. Okay, if you're making tons of cash, okay, maybe treat yourself. But if you're looking for ways to save money, you should not be overspending on a car. Another thing, don't ever lease. Don't lease. You're going to waste your money over time. Buy it, keep it for a long time. You're going to be putting thousands of dollars back into your pocket over the next decade. Thousands. I mean, we're talking probably $10,000 easy. Little things to do with your car. You probably heard this. If you inflate your tires, make sure your air filter's clean, you could cut your gas bill by 10%. Again, not huge, right? So if you're spending $200 a month on gas, what if you're now only spending $180? $20 a month, that's $240 a year. Hey, that's something. The other big thing, keep your maintenance schedule. Invest in your car. That is not a place you want to save money by not doing oil changes, by not doing tire rotations, by not doing the general upkeep. If you're going to keep your car till it dies, you want it to live as long as possible, you got to do the maintenance. I always like the phrase, I think it's basically comes from the Buddhist belief that the stuff you own eventually ends up owning you. And what does that mean? Well, if you keep buying stuff, that means you have to keep working for it. If you have to keep working because you keep buying stuff, well, eventually, who are you really working for? You or the stuff you bought? So you really have to start to reprogram yourself to go from, hey, I want to own this, to, I really don't need this. And in fact, what you want to do is start to get rid of the stuff you have. I'll guarantee you that you have a ton of stuff, probably 25%, maybe even as high as 40% of the stuff you own, you never use, or you use so infrequently that it's really not worth having. So sell it, garage sale it, give it to charity, get your tax write-off, get rid of it. One, you're getting rid of stuff that you don't need, so you're going to simplify your life. But the other thing is you're changing your financial situation by doing this. Another thing, if you are going to buy, always look to buy used or refurbished. You can save a lot of money by doing that stuff. Maybe you only save $100 when you do it one time, but if you do it continually over the next decade or two, you're talking thousands of dollars. I use this all the time. Look to the library. You can get DVDs rather than going to Redbox. You can get books rather than buying books. All of that stuff. Again, we're looking for small things that add up to big things. And this is one of the areas. Unused memberships is another. Oh man, I see so many people. I look at their credit card statements and they have Planet Fitness. And I'll ask them, do you go much? I'll start up in January, go to February, and I really don't use it much after that. But it's only $10 a month. Planet Fitness has built its business model on people who the fee, it's a small fee, we'll just keep it going, but they don't use the gym. They don't want you to go into the gym because they only charge you $10 a month. They couldn't afford it if everybody was coming in and using up the equipment. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's only $120 a year. It's $120 a year. What else could you use that on? That could be savings, for crying out loud. Come on, kids' college. Let's go. $120, $120. Magazines is another one. You get these magazines. Why do you get magazines? Come on. You know, you could do a subscription online for probably half the price, but guess what? Google can get you all that information as well. Or, hey, library. Go to library, look at the magazine. So, I mean, come on. There's ways, little things like that. Stuff you own, appliances. You know, hey, it's nice to have that new refrigerator or a new vacuum or new TV, all that kind of stuff. Keep them until they die. Just like your car, keep them until you die. I catch grief all the time from people. I still have my bigger TV down in our basement is one of the old big vacuum tube kind of things. You know, it's not even a flat screen. So I've had it since the 90s, but it still works. It still works. Why get rid of it? It still works. Yeah, you know, I get catch grief when people come down and look at it like, yeah, you know, you're still stuck back in the 80s. Yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I am, but I'm not outlaying this money. And I hear all the time, well, get a flat screen. They're not that expensive. Yeah, they're not. But if I can delay that $250 or $500 purchase for a year or two, what's that do for my cash flow? Helps it massively. A lot of appliances, it's just little basic tender loving care. We'll extend them by a year or two. Dusting, electronics, refrigerator, TVs, things like that. That has a huge impact on extending the lives of your products. Just little things. It's the little things that add up. Okay, so there's a million more ideas out there, but I just want to throw out a few that you might be able to focus on. Again, if you really focus on what you're spending your money on, I think right away, certain items are going to jump out at you that you could cut. But then look at your fixed expenses. You're going to be able to bring those down. After that, try to look for some strategies for your discretionary expenses. And then anything you own, stretch it out. Use it as long as you can. Use it till it dies. And then don't be somebody who gets their self-esteem from the kind of car you drive or the equipment you have around your house. It doesn't make you happy. Even the happiness you feel is very short term. So that's the monthly webinar. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like this information, you can sign up for my newsletter at picketfencefinancial.com/education. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll get this to you every month. You can also find us on a Facebook page for Picket Fence Financial or our YouTube channel. Just type in Kirk Kinder and you'll find it. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please let me know.